Well, greetings, friends. My name is David McLeod. I am your life mastery coach, and this is Soul Empowerment, episode number 13. That's right. We're starting into our second year now. Hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this episode is called Wandering Aimfully, and I just love that title. It resonates so much in my soul. Good morning or good afternoon, Nancy. How are you doing?
I'm doing well today. I'm looking forward to wandering aimfully through our show today to move into all that we have yet to uncover.
Yeah. So for those of you who are on right now on live, please remember that you can interact with us by typing into the chat, and we will do our best to answer your questions or respond to your comments as they show up. So yeah, wandering aimfully. I mean, obviously, most people think of the term wandering aimlessly, and that's kind of where we were coming from. We were having this conversation a couple of weeks ago, I guess it was, about creating a vision for 2021. Because we've had to go through some pretty horrendous things, all of us, throughout 2020, and it's been a challenging year. There's no question about it. So, so Nancy, talk about your perspective on this. I mean, think about where you were in 2020 and how you'd like to shift that for 2021.
I would say my place in 2020 was just furthering and pursuing even more while staying in the status quo, so to speak. I was just open to doing even more based on what I knew to be true last year, not knowing that all of this was going to come about. So I was just on my happy life path, wanting to gain and grow more, more aware, more knowledgeable, inspire more, share more, and support more. And then everything came about with many personal things that occurred in my life, meant for me to learn from, and of course our global pandemic. And I was asked or invited by the universe to handle and respond versus react. And that is where I'm at now, taking everything I learned internally and externally and applying it with more focus, staying away from whatever the status quo meant, because that has completely changed, and forging up a new path with how to be with everything that occurred, what I learned from that, and what's the best use of that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I can resonate a lot with that. Certainly when 2020 started, I thought, oh, this is just going to be such a cool year. It's got the name 2020, everything about it is perfect. And it's going to be such a cool year. And in some ways, I have to resonate with what you're saying. I think in some ways it really was a cool year. There was a lot of strange things that happened, absolutely, and things that probably irritated and upset and hurt a lot of people. But what I found from it was an opportunity to really check in with the truth of who I am, and to understand that, okay, all this stuff is happening in the world, but how am I in relation to that? It was a great opportunity to do a lot of, I would say, introspection. That's the word that comes to my mind, because because of the terms of this pandemic, interacting with people on a personal level in person was not really considered to be an acceptable or appropriate thing to do. So consequently, we had to all make adjustments. I mean, how many of us now we're never even heard of Zoom before, and now we're using it practically every day. It's just an amazing transition. So in some ways, while this chaos came into our lives, somehow we managed to find our way through it. And here we are at the end, and now we're beginning a new year with all kinds of new opportunities that are coming up. And so the question is, are we expecting more chaos? Or are we just opening ourselves to something that is more purposeful, more direct, more hopeful, more loving? What is it that we are stepping into? So that's really what I think we want to talk about today.
Yeah. And by knowing that we're stepping into something all new, And maybe, I guess, backtracking just a moment to last year, at times I did feel like I was wandering aimlessly, like, oh my gosh, all of this happened. Well, I just need to step in through a round, have to learn, new terms, wear a mask, speak, what's socially distant, virtual, gatherings. So all of those things that were not even on the plate led me at times to wander aimlessly. Now that I have this much more knowledge, I'm going to take that and wander aimfully, more fully. But yeah, that's
right. Yeah. And it's interesting that you mentioned those things. I think one of the characteristics of 2020 that really kind of stuck out for me was fear. There was fear everywhere. And I know that for myself, I found it difficult at times to keep my grounding, recognizing that this was just people reacting to a situation without really understanding fully that we are divine, magnificent, spiritual beings of light and love. And there's nothing that can really destroy us, although our physical bodies may seem to be in pain or seem to be hurting. The ultimate truth of who we are cannot be destroyed. And in fact, maybe there's a way in which this was meant to create some kind of the image that comes to my mind is a kind of a pressure cooker where we're inside this thing and it's really there like a crucible, to put the pressure on us so that we do come to the truth of who we really are. I don't know. That's just one possibility. What do you think?
I really feel very strong about that. I think if you were one, at least I know I was, when things occurred to me, not everything, I'll preface this, I had some incredible, amazing opportunities that occurred last year. So I don't want to focus on the few things that were, wow. But I do, I feel that the heavy concentration of all the energy that was on all of us last year in the world universe, I chose to notice it and accept, in the midst of not wanting to accept initially, but to accept what was at hand in a way that I could have a deeper level of acceptance and personal growth. So I guess we had to go through the burning of the crucible to be forged, to begin to work on that forging.
Right.
That leads us at the doorway of this brand new month and year.
Right.
Yeah.
So you folks that are here watching on the live show, do you have any comments about that? What did you notice about 2020 that maybe helped you to grow a little bit, maybe helped you unexpectedly to find an aspect of who you are that maybe you might not have found otherwise? I think that's a great question for us to think about.
Yeah, I think that was a really big deal for me. I'll share with the audience, excuse me. My year started off with being disconnected from one of our sons. And then shortly thereafter, I broke my arm, and was everything that I normally had done. I had to go through physical therapy and rehab. So I was forged right away, right in the beginning of the year, to either kick my way through that year kicking and screaming, or sit down and ask, what about these personal things that occurred to me are a means for me? What am I meant to learn from this? What's the takeaway? It isn't just this one-time event, that broken bone or the disconnection. There's so much more going on underneath the surface here. What is that?
Right.
I became, I suppose, more curious of the big story going on underneath the surface.
Well, I like the way you describe that. I think for many of us, we have a superficial life, all the events around us that happen all the time. But then we have the stuff in here, and that's often because we're so distracted by what's going on at the outer layer that we may not actually be paying close attention to what's going on internally. And so I bless you and honor you for actually taking the time to look inside, because that's a really, really important step you know, and I certainly resonate with that. I had to do a lot of that myself. You know, on the other hand, I see a couple of great things that happened this year that I don't know if they would have happened without the circumstances that we have right now. Just as an example, you and I were both part of a book that we got to publish through the Wellness Universe, and it became a bestseller. I mean, that was an exciting thing that happened. Another thing that happened for me, and actually it kind of crossed over between 2020 and 2021. So right at the very end of the year, I may have shared here before that one of my children, my youngest son, has been kind of estranged from me for the last 6 or 7 years, and he's been wandering around, not aimlessly. From my perspective, it may have been aimless, but he was actually looking for himself, the true nature of who he is, and doing a lot of personal, deep growth work. And so I haven't seen him because, you know, differences of opinion and stuff like that. But just the other day, in fact, it was not yesterday, but last Monday, he showed up here in Meridian out of the blue. He just simply showed up and called me on my phone and said, "Hey, Dad, I'm here at the Albertsons down the street." And I was stunned.
Wow.
Here we are in the middle of a pandemic, and you found your way into the United States and down to Meridian.
Wow.
I mean, you know, I don't know. He says that he hitchhiked. He hitchhiked from Canada, from Victoria, Vancouver, I should say. And how did he get across the border? Well, I can't reveal that because, you know, that's, let's just say it wasn't exactly on the up and up. But somehow he got across the border. He hitchhiked all the way down to Meridian. He stayed for exactly 2 days. And he says, "Dad, it's been awesome seeing you. I'm going now." And he left. And so here I am starting to feel the fear of, oh my God, what happens if he tries to cross the border again and he gets caught and oh my God. So he made it. He's back in Vancouver, and now he's thinking about flying to Mexico. You know, he goes through the world believing that he is always protected, no matter what he does or where he goes. And that is an amazing place to be, a place that I think I would love to, you know, to learn to be that way too.
Mm-hmm.
But it was awesome to see him, and it was awesome to get that connection and, you know, to reconnect with my son. It was a little disappointing that he decided to leave so early, but hey, you know, he's going to follow his heart, whatever he does.
That's a beautiful story. Maybe that was meant to be part of the bigger picture of your vision for 2021.
Absolutely. Yeah, right? Absolutely. And so here we are talking about a new year and all the things that are going to be happening. I mean, this month, we've got all kinds of stuff that's going on. I mean, there's supposed to be an inauguration in 9 days now, I think it is.
Next week?
8 days, whatever it is.
Oh.
And there's going to be a new administration. Whatever that looks like, we don't know. And I think my hope personally in this regard is that we can reconnect as a nation of loving, amazing human beings in order to create the United States or America. I like the word America because America is the state of being, whereas the United States is the physical country. So I hope that we can recreate America in a way that is the beacon of hope for everybody. That's my dream for this year, or part of it anyway.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah. So that would be your vision, right?
It's part of it. Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. That's my vision for the whole country, the whole world, actually. I think the concept of America is something that really needs to be embraced by the whole world, because I think it's a beautiful concept. This idea that every individual is a sovereign being. Every individual has the right to, you know, to live his or her life in whatever way he or she chooses, as long as it doesn't infringe on anybody else's rights. That's the kind of belief system that I have. And I want to encourage that throughout the world.
I love that. Yeah. So that's part of your wandering aimfully into the year.
Right. And so now the question is, if that's my vision for the country or the world, what's my vision for myself? How do I see myself showing up within that vision? And that's really where I think the work is. All of us have the opportunity to imagine the ideal world in which we'd love to live. How people would interact with one another, how all needs would be met, how everyone would be respected and loved and taken care of, or whatever words you choose to use to describe that for yourself. So the question is, if that's my vision for the world, then how do I, as an individual, contribute to that vision? What are the things that I do, that I choose to do in my life in order to help make that vision come into reality? And I think that's what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah, that's really hitting me right now. Yeah, so we can have a vision for what I envision the world to be moving into as a whole. And then we take that larger vision and ask ourselves, how can I then move into the space of my body, mind, and spirit to do things that would move me, but then open up into this world vision? So it's like a level. You have a high, the big picture level, the world vision, or United States or America. And then we have, what is my place in that vision? What are some key things that come to my mind that I would like to be learning or doing more of, or things to release? Yes, I think two things that I gained from last year were learning to intentionally pause when I felt the urge to react or just forge ahead to this well-worn, pattern, and pause and respond, asking myself, what is it about what was said or done to me directly or around me that I am reacting to, that's causing me to feel, some high level of emotion, getting to the core of that so that I could learn from that reaction and then respond. So doing more deep dive work into whatever it was about that I immediately wanted to just have a surface level reaction to, but not getting to know myself better. So that my work this year is to cooperate and respond rather than be quick to interrupt, interject, shoot something out that may or may have no bearing all. It could be a well-worn habit pattern from an old wound or just an old habitual thing. So I want to release the habitual and move into a place that's more realistic or moving forward. Yeah. Yeah. I love that, Marian. Learning not to react to the, yes.
Right. Well, I mean, reaction often is just the ego mind operating under its fear-based illusion of somehow being under attack by other people. And if we can recognize that and stay connected to our hearts, even when the ego mind is chattering, if we can stay connected to our hearts, then we can reduce the effect of that reaction and allow it to quiet to the point where we can simply respond. And this is what you were talking about, the difference between reaction and response, which is something that we talk about almost every time we do a show anyway. Because I think we can't fault ourselves. We all have ego minds. There's just no way to stop that. And the idea that we are going to simply take the ego and remove it, I don't know that we could even operate in this physical world without it. I think we need it for that purpose, to be able to, to navigate the physical world. So to eliminate the ego altogether seems like a not very good idea to me, as long as we remain in this dualistic space of the physical and the spiritual. Once we, discard the physical body and move into our spiritual realm, then the ego is no longer necessary. And we are then operating strictly from response and no longer from reaction. So that's just my perspective. I don't know. I may or may not be right about that. It's just how I see things. And it makes sense to me.
Yeah, it does make sense. It like you said, it's part of our life here on Earth is to have the self-love and compassion to be able to do the inner work on ourselves so that we are standing on more solid ground and have that foundation that we're not going to be upended or wiped out when things beyond our control occur in the world, the pandemic. I know that, or politics or, race, whatever, that we can be part of the solution. I think that's, and get out of the problem. And that, I guess that would come from your vision. I want to focus on being more solutions focused. I've got something, for instance, here's a little blip that's coming up. As you and I have talked about, I'm working on my website, wanting to change it. And I was coming at it from seeing it as being a major problem. Like, oh my gosh, this is a problem. Well, of course, who wants to dive in? As I was making it negative and a problem. And then last night, as I was quietly sitting, I'm like, wait a minute. I get to be solutions focused. I may not have the answers, but I can get help, and I can step into the energy of seeking a solution and a resolution to the things that I've allowed to suppress me, is thinking that they're such a big problem. So part of my vision this year is being open and solutions focused, knowing that at any turn in life, there's things there. These are going to initially come across as being a problem or a challenge or an obstacle, only to the point that I allow that everything in life, no matter what, there is a solution. And it's comforting to know that. So that part of my vision is being more solutions focused to the little things in my life and to the things that have yet to come across my path.
Yeah, I like that. And what you're describing reminds me of something else that I have learned elsewhere. And that is that in the grand scheme of things, you can't even come up with a question unless the answer already exists. This is something that many people don't quite understand. And so what you're talking about here, your focus on problem, you wouldn't even have seen those problems if the answer, or the solution, if you like, didn't already exist for those problems. And all you had to do is just take a step back, and now you can say, oh yeah, now I can see where the solution might be. And the other thing that I wanted to point out is very often problems are energetically sourced from fear, whereas solutions are energetically sourced from love.
Yeah.
Now, that's an interesting perspective. So one thing that you could ask yourself, and I give this to everybody, in fact, I offer it to myself too. In any given moment, you can always ask yourself, what would love do now? Ooh. What would love do now? It's a great question that just, you talk about taking that pause and stepping back. Well, if you ask the question, what would love do now? You really have no choice but to pause for a moment and let the answer bubble up in your heart and soul, right? So it's a beautiful way of encouraging that very pause you're looking for, so that instead of focusing on the problem, you can focus on the solution. This is something I think we can all do. And I think it's a beautiful phrase. What would love do now?
I'm bringing that right into my vision there. I've added something to my vision for this year. And another thing that comes to mind, I think also, we sometimes get stuck in thinking that a vision needs to have, we do need to have structure, but it needs to have these black and white next steps, step by step by step.
Right.
And we're thinking, wow, okay, well, if my vision is to eat whole and clean, meditate daily and be more calm, then I'm going to, food plan and shop, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to carve out, 20 minutes a day on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So we think we have to put this, there's my vision, there's the opening for it, make it into a SMART goal, which is very realistic and of course part of the plan. But then the big vision is what you just shared, is switching from being problem focused, based in fear, like waiting for the bottom to drop, the shoe to fall, to being solutions focused, in love. That's a big vision, really, a big, beautiful one. Because with last year and what's going on now, it's easy to get caught up in the fear of what now, what next. Oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm just me. The rest of this is blah, blah, blah. And what that does is it puts on a much more heavy felt energy that can, in fact, cover up the solution that was there. So that's a big shift. Love. What would love do? What would love show us?
Yeah. It's so you said a couple of things there that I just want to come back to. Mm-hmm. First of all, the notion of a vision. You've got some pictures behind you, mm-hmm. and those pictures represent, well, in this case, they represent places on the planet. But what if that picture actually was a drawing of the kind of world that you imagined? A world where people are hugging each other, loving each other, walking around freely, sharing their love. I don't know, what other things that you can imagine. So you would start populating your picture with all these things that correspond to that kind of vision. Notice that this doesn't yet say anything about what you particularly are doing. Okay? Mm-hmm. So you have the vision first, which is, something that's coming out of your heart. Yeah. And for me personally, I like to think really big, like so big that it's absolutely impossible for me to accomplish this in a single lifetime. And the reason I like that is because then that vision becomes like a beacon or, a light post somewhere, on the hill. So I can always point and I say, oh yeah, I'm still heading in the right direction, Or if I happen to turn around and I'm pointing in the wrong direction, I could check it and say, is this going to fulfill my vision? So now I can start looking at every objective that I have, every specific objective. Like say, for example, I want to write a book. My book, if it's not in alignment with my vision, then it's probably not something that I should be engaging in. That's just a distraction now. It's like playing a video game. Is that video game going to serve me to create the vision that I'm looking for in the world? You see? Mm-hmm. So everything I do, no matter what it is, I can connect it back to my vision. Now, sure, sometimes I just want to schmump. That's a word my son and I use. I want to schmump. It means I do nothing. I do nothing and I don't care right now. And maybe that's what I need, to just kind of let go of everything. And let's face it, we all need that break, don't we? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So doing that periodically is fine. It gives you a chance to decompress and release whatever energy you have and not have any pressure about achieving a particular goal in any particular order. Okay. And you can do that as frequently or as infrequently as you need to and still be in full alignment with your vision. So now your vision is here. Now you think, okay, I've got this friend over here who keeps bugging me about doing something. Is that guy really my friend? Maybe in order to make my vision more real and to keep moving closer to that vision, I may have to release. I may have to release some people who up till now may have seemed to like friends, but maybe weren't so much friends anyway. Mm-hmm. You see, so that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about creating a vision for your life and for the world that you can live by every day for the rest of your life. That's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of vision that I have. You see, so it's got to be big.
Okay. So what you're suggesting is for us, those of you that are listening and that are, are here now, is to really spend time reflecting on what it is that matters, what's meaningful, what you believe in, what you would aspire to or inspired by. Make this really magnificent vision for the world and your place in that, and use that. I mean, it has to be very personal to you, like David said. You need to be in alignment with that. Yeah, we don't want it to just look good and sound good, but it needs to light you up inside, so to speak. So that you're saying, in order to have those day-to-day or month-to-month things work, we all need to take the time. We owe it to ourselves to craft what it is we desire to be doing, feeling, being in our world, in our place. And from that, then we can kind of hone in on some more personal aspects. Like, if we're invited to write a book, well, that sounds awesome and fine, but is me, being invited to write a chapter in the book, is that aligned with my vision of the things that matter to me and how I want to share that? Maybe I got invited to go on a major trip. Well, that sounds all fun and great, but is that trip going to fit in time-wise, financially, spiritually, whatever, with what's going on, with who I want to surround myself with? So maybe we can start crafting the more intimate details once we have this vision that states who we are, what we stand for, what we believe in or want to become.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's very nice. And I like the way you use the phrase, what I stand for. That's a great phrase. What's important to me? What are my values?
Yeah.
What are the things that I really value in life that I believe are beneficial to other people as well? That's a great question to ask yourself. And I know for myself, I mean, I'm sure we all have individual values that we would probably put on the top of the list, right? And I know one of mine that always comes up to the top of my list is integrity. Integrity is an incredibly important value to me. Now, it might be important to you too, but it might not be as important, say, as unconditional love. Maybe that's more important to you. And that's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong. We're not here to judge each other for what we put at the top of our list of values. Yeah. But when you take the time, and I like doing lists. I've talked about this before. I'll journal lists. I'll write down. So what are the top 5 values that I have? And I'll just write. I like doing this. I'll write physically on a piece of paper until I can't think of anything else. And so I might end up with 20 or 30 values. Great. Now I've got them. Now, which of those 20 or 30 are really most important to me? And I'll start circling them. And maybe I'll get it down to 10. And then I'll narrow it down one more time. And I said, if I had to pick only 5 of those, which would they be? And then circle those. And then I come down and I say, all right, great. Now you got 5 of these. And if you could only pick one, what would it be? You see, by doing that, you're actually helping yourself to get more focused on what's really, really important to you. Now, these things, it's like, values are so, I guess fluid is the right word. They're important to us. And this is why we call them values. And, but in any given moment, maybe one value is slightly more important than another. So you're probably going to have 4, 5, or 6 that are right near the top, and they're all approximately equal. So in any given moment, you might say, yeah, this one's number 1 today. Okay, great. But 5 minutes from now, also today, it might be a different one. So allow yourself to be fluid and flexible and flowy. Look at that. 3 words start with FL.
Fluid, flexible, flowy. And also, I think the season of life we're in, your values are going to kind of go in and out. Maybe one season in life, I know when I was with my husband raising our 4 sons, safety and was a big value. And Responsibility, that was a big value. To show up very responsible is guiding and managing and parenting, and it's keeping everybody safe. Now, my values, I think, those values are there, but now at the top of my list is flexibility, independence, freedom, and honesty. Honesty is a big one. That's always, like you stated at the top. So I think the work that we do with our clients, so they're both involved with coaching and life mastery. Well, your life mastery is, that's number one to crafting your vision, is doing that beautiful work of bringing forth, if you've not done it, what you value, and not just the value, but what about that value lights you up? What about that value matters to you? Why did you say, I value integrity or family or honesty or, love or, structure? What about that made you speak that? So knowing the value and why that matters, and then you can keep drilling it down. Okay, well, what about that matter? Let's just say, I really value freedom. Okay, why do you like freedom? Oh, because I can travel and have my own schedule. Okay, well, what about travel and your own schedule matters? Well, blah, blah, blah. So you keep dialing it down until you get to that sweet spot where you're like, oh, I've just hit on a gold nugget. That's mine. That's an asset and an attribute. So really, really matters to do the work of diving in to your values as it pertains to your vision in your life. I know the first few times I was asked to do this as a young adult, I had no clue. I was like, I don't know. I value, like just surfacey. I value having money to spend. Or something.
Well, I love that process, and it is a powerful process, and it's great if you can have someone to facilitate that for you. But you can do it yourself. You can write down your values, narrow it down to 4 or 5. And then, as Nancy says, for each one, well, what is it about this value that I really love? What is important about it? And write that down. And as you say, if you go deep enough, then you eventually get to this gold nugget. And this gold nugget may have a different name. That's nothing like the name of the value you originally started with.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that you're trying to create in the world. Once you get down to that gold nugget. So, you start with integrity, and it might work its way down, and maybe a whole new word comes up, like sovereignty or liberty or oneness or connection, or who knows what's going to happen. I mean, when you get down to that gold nugget, that's the word that really should pervade your entire vision. You should be coming up with pictures, phrases, ideas that cement this notion of connection, or whatever the key word is. And in fact, some of the sentences that you went through to get down to connection might show up as little parts of your vision. Do you see?
Yeah.
So what you end up creating is like a vision board that can be as large as you like, with pictures on it, with quotes, inspirational quotes, some of your own ideas. Maybe you write poetry, put some of that up there. Anything that helps to contribute to your overall vision for the world that you want to create. That's the key here. The vision is what we're trying to create.
And then what your core values are, really, that begins to set your own foundation that allows you to move from reacting or being triggered by or whatever into responding, because you've done the work of knowing at your deeper depth who you are and what you stand for, that when life occurs, you get to remain much more stable and strong or solid or at ease, because you've done that deep work of owning yourself authentically. And that did come out to play for me recently. Again, we had a personal thing occur, and I didn't. Now, in the past, I probably would have just been steamrolled or whatever. But when the event occurred, I stayed the course. I was able to know to care for myself and respond, and not switch and be all over the place. And that, to me, that was such a gift. because what I've done for me, I help to bring that energy into the situation. So yes, of course, you're working on your own path to create this life. But as David has shared so much on the show, and myself now too, is the work that we do for ourselves is taken in by our community, by our family, friends, coworkers in the world. So
Right.
it's a really cool thing, this sense of wandering aimfully. So
that's really important.
Mhm.
As a coach, I cannot be a successful coach if I'm not willing to do my own work.
Mhm.
I have done a lot of work over the years, so maybe the amount of work I'm doing now isn't quite as much, and I can spend some of my additional time now focusing on supporting other people. But ultimately, we do have to do our own work, and anything we do for ourselves, anything that we do to improve ourselves, to make ourselves more enlightened or more loving or anything like that, is naturally of benefit to the world, and therefore it does contribute to our vision that we're trying to create. And so the thing that we're doing here is we're helping you to come up with ideas for how to create a vision for yourself, not only for 2021, but also for the rest of your life. And this vision is something, if that nugget of gold, as I said before, came down to that word connection or sovereignty or whatever that word was, that word should be the main word that's kind of infused into your vision. And so part of your mission statement, if you like, has to do with this vision that you create in the world. So for example, if the word was connection, you might say, I create connection. Now, other people may not resonate with that word. It doesn't matter. It means something to you. You know the process you went through to get to that word. Mm-hmm. I create connection. I create universal connection. I create connection in the world. Now this is what you're creating. And then what we do is we add on to that. Well, how do you create that? How do you create? What are the actions that you take on a regular basis to help ensure that connection gets into being? And so this is the second part of the wandering aspect. We've got a target to aim at, but now we have to do some wandering. And the wandering is about the actions that we take in order to bring that vision into reality.
I like that. Yeah. So the question is if we are taking actions to bring our vision into reality, are we taking time then to craft traditional terms, goals or SMART goals, little things that we want to be a part of or be doing that would bring that vision into reality, right?
So I would say, yes, we would do that. But that's not part of this particular process.
Okay.
So imagine this vision that you've created, this vision board. Now I want you to imagine going a step further, what it is that you do in order to make that vision come into reality. So maybe you come up with some generic terminologies, like, for example, I create connection by reaching out to people whenever I can, or by smiling. Maybe that's how you create connection, by smiling all the time. Or maybe you create connection, and believe me, it sounds simplistic, but this one specific action that you are constantly doing isn't about achieving a goal. It isn't about saying, I did this woodworking project and I offered it to my grandmother and therefore I created connection by doing that. Certainly that is true, but we don't want to limit ourselves to just tiny little actions. We want, how do I show up every single day to create connection? That's what we're saying. And maybe, by the way, maybe you don't always show up that way. That's okay. This is an ideal world. Remember, you're creating this ideal world in which you do show up that way. So, I have created my own vision for my life, and I've narrowed it down to 11 words now. And so my vision statement and my mission statement is, I create universal harmony by modeling, fostering, and facilitating authentic magnificence. That's it. So now you think about that for a minute. It's a short phrase, but it's easy for me to remember. And now I can measure everything I do against that phrase. Is this action going to create universal harmony? Is it going to contribute to that? Is it fostering, facilitating, and embracing magnificence? Is it doing that? As long as I can say yes to both parts of that, then I know I'm moving towards the fulfillment of my vision. That's really what it's all about.
Wow, that's well said. So now you've got wheels turning in my head. I have
yeah, I can see them.
I've got I've got a lot of words connected, but as you wrote that is really empowering. I know a big deal in my life is I want to serve, inspire, encourage, and elevate the status of others with my positive energy so that they feel cared for and in turn can go do the same in their life, encourage and inspire, elevate others. So that is my energy. And I didn't even think about backtracking, that when I'm invited to do things or things come up, I need to write it in a way that I can ask myself, is this request or is this activity or whatnot, is it one that is going to serve, encourage, inspire, support, elevate me and my work? So we write it out, we seek to give that out from ourselves. But then, as you said, if things come across our path, we now have that vision that we can say, wait a minute, is this in alignment with what matters to me? Well, let me see. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm going to be working on that this week, because that is a big deal to have that succinctly written as best you can. Again, things are going to, ebb and flow, but to have that written down, that when things come across my path, I'll know. Right. And another thing that we can bring up is, I now know that if I feel really resistant or if I have a lot of pushback when a request is made of me, I know that, I don't need to do that because it's out of alignment with what matters to me. So I'm
careful. Be careful. Sometimes resistance can be something else.
Okay.
But you can certainly, when you feel resistance, one thing you can absolutely certainly do is you can say, I'm feeling some resistance here. I wonder, let me take a look at this thing I'm being asked to do and compare it to my vision.
Okay.
Is it really not in alignment, or is it just that there's something inside me that is blocking me from being in alignment with that? See, so don't immediately dismiss resistance as something that it might be keeping you from getting into something that's not in alignment. Resistance is just, I look at it as, hey, just take a pause, okay. Check it out. Resistance coming from my ego mind. Yeah. That is it fear-based, or is the resistance actually coming from my soul? Because it's saying, hey, buddy, you might not be quite on the right path here. You might want to investigate this a little bit. You see? So always treat it as an opportunity to investigate and do a little bit of a deeper dive.
Ooh, wise words. Okay, I'm going to add that one as well.
Yeah.
Add that on.
Yeah, the other thing I want to say, when I first started doing mission work, when I started the process of coming up with a vision and an action that combined together to create my vision statement, I had paragraphs. I had long paragraphs. I had all kinds of words, and there was a lot of, I liked my words. I thought, I'm a poet. I like writing words. And I had a coach who said, I understand that you like to write words. That's great. I want you to still narrow it down. I want you to get it down. See if you can get it down to 10 words or less. And the reason is not because, it's only so that you can easily remember it. And every one of the words in my new mission statement has meaning to me that might not be the same for somebody else who hears it for the first time. So The only thing that matters is that when you say it, you can feel that resonance in your heart. And the other thing that I learned is I would often say, well, I am going to, or I will, or I want to, or some other phrase. And the guy said, no, eliminate all that crap and simply say, this is what I do. I create this kind of world by doing these kinds of actions. That's it. Simple, simple, simple. And the reason is it's present tense now.
I love that.
It's right here now. Okay. And now I can look at every action I am about to undertake, say my mission statement and say, how does this new action fit in with that mission statement? Does it fit? Or do I need to revise it? The other thing that you can do is you can go back and look at all your previous goals that you've done, or any agreements that you've made with people, and you can say to yourself, are these agreements in alignment with who I am and with how I want to show up in the world? And if they are, great, then you can continue to do them. If they're not, now you have an opportunity to investigate those agreements and say, I wonder why I agreed to do that. It doesn't seem to be in alignment with who I am or how I want to show up in the world. Do I want to change it? Or do I want to cancel it? What do I want to do? And then if the agreement is with another person, you have the opportunity at this point to go and speak to that person and say, this agreement's really not working for me anymore. I'd like to talk to you about it and see if we can come up with a new plan.
Yeah. That's pretty succinct. So we're combining that beautiful overarching vision, and then we're putting action to it in the present tense. So that's what I was trained initially to say. I am going to blah blah blah. I want to, but that puts you behind what it is you say you're doing, as if you're going to be chasing it.
That's a really interesting perspective. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah.
It's kind of like saying, I hope to, you know? Well, or I'll try to.
Yeah.
It's the same energy. You might do it, you might not. But in fact, if you don't say, I do this is my choice, this is my commitment, if you don't do that, then you're not really putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
And the universe doesn't know how to respond to you when you say, well, I want whatever. And the universe can simply look at you and say, yes, you do. Yes, you do. You want that. And the universe then can continue to provide you with what appears to be a lack of that thing so that you can continue to want.
That is really fascinating. Wow.
Right. So instead of saying I want, if you want to put extra words in there, just say I choose to. Or I choose this.
Okay.
It's powerful. It's powerful. The words that we use are extremely powerful.
Yeah, that's got me thinking how many times I said, I am going to XYZ, or I want to. Just I will. I choose to. I choose. Can we say I will?
You can say whatever you like. You can use whatever language you want. I'm just telling you how the universe is going to respond to it. If you say I will, the universe says, okay. It's like saying, setting up a New Year's resolution. Yeah. I am going to lose 50 pounds or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to lose 50 pounds. Great. You're going to. Well, when are you going to? There's no time limit on that. There's no, So you talked about SMART goals earlier on. If you're going to say anything in a statement like that, make sure that it is SMART. It's specific. It's measurable. It's what's the A stand for?
Actionable.
Yeah, actionable. You can actually do something about it. It's SMART.
Realistic and timely. So it's real. It's actually realistic.
Realistic. That's the word. And time-based. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah. I also throw in an additional thing. I call it PD SMART, which is purpose driven.
Mm-hmm.
So we've already talked about, this is what we've been talking about this whole time today, is about the vision and the action, creating this mission statement. So, or having a clear understanding of our purpose, right? Because our purpose really is to manifest this vision that we're creating. And so if you're going to have a SMART goal, it's great to have a SMART goal, but make sure it's purpose driven as well. In other words, it's in alignment with who you say you want to be, who you are choosing to be, and how you choose to show up, right? How you choose to have the world experience you.
Ooh, now that's a nugget there. As you craft your vision statement is, how do I choose to have the world experience me and know me? Because we act as if it's just up to circumstance and happenstance, but no, that is very powerful. So your vision is going to include how you personally choose for the world to see and experience you.
Yeah. So I'm curious, for you folks who are listening live here, do you have any questions or comments about this? Does this all make sense to you? I'd love to hear from you.
I know, you guys taking it all. Is it too much information?
Yeah, I do tend to get wound up, and I forget to check the chat now and then. So
yeah.
But I'd love to hear from you if you're finding some benefit in this, and if you can hopefully see yourself creating a vision for your life and perhaps creating a mission statement. I see someone is typing there right now.
Yep.
Lots of good info. We have to listen to replay to really get it all.
I was going to say that. I'm glad that this is recorded so you can go tap into it to gather it in. It is a lot, but if I feel I've learned from you, David, and you've learned from me, and we've learned is, so your statement is present focused going into what you envision moving ahead, but it's also placing, not like I am going to, or I hope, I choose to show up. In fact, my word for the year, my word for 2021 is radiant. That just immediately popped to my mind. New Year's Day, I don't even know why I woke up with the word radiant. I'm like, yep, that's me.
It's a beautiful word.
It is. And so I choose to be radiant, for others to have a light to shine on them and to light up my day in the world. I choose to put radiant energy out from within me. And by choosing that, I'm going to receive radiant energy instead of I am going to learn to have radiant energy. So then based on what you said, well, that's great. You will have plenty of opportunities to look to that. That's very empowering.
Right. Yeah, it also, I think it helps us to live in the present moment when we choose phrases like that. When you speak in the present moment, then you are here now. You're not somewhere in the future, and you're not somewhere back there in the past. You're here now. And that isn't a self-empowering process, or if you like, a soul-empowering process. And that's what we're all about here today, isn't it? Soul empowerment. So.
Yeah. And before we end our show, what came up to me was, if you are wanting to connect with David and I and the whole of the wellness universe, in October of 2021, we are hosting an in-person, not us, but the wellness universe, an in-person retreat called Soul Treat 2021. There's lots of information posted on the Wellness Universe site. You can type in Wellness Universe on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. That will give you insight. David is going to be one of the presenters. I am going to be there providing an experience, and it's, I think, two, maybe 3 action-packed days with beautiful learning events, presentations, experiences. It's on the campus of Art of Living in Boone, North Carolina.
That's right.
I can't wait to go there. So it is a very amazing, low price, affordable retreat that will really amp things up in your life. I'm going to be there. As I said, I went on the very first ever soul treat, and it would just opened doors that I didn't even know. It was very healing and very action focused. And David has been on these all along, and he's an amazing, amazing speaker. So that's just a little something for you to put in your cap, to think about what might be included in your vision for more learning and personal growth and development and well-being. So just wanted to.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for saying all that.
Yeah.
And thank you for reminding me of Soul Treat. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a ways out there.
Mm-hmm.
We were supposed to do it in October of 2020, but we had things happen that made it impossible for that to take place. So I'm looking forward to it. I always love being at these events because it gives me an opportunity to connect in person, and nothing makes me happier than millions of heartfelt hugs. Yeah. And I can't wait to experience that again.
Yeah. So be thinking about that. Ask us or tap into more information. And we're not hard selling, but I can't wait to go. I really missed not being able to go in October. I know only the best is in store for myself and for all of us who get to attend. And it's just a beautiful gift. So,
right. And as long as we're on the topic, let's keep in mind, let's choose to make 2021 a really, truly fabulous year for all of us. That's what I would encourage.
I choose to move into all that is positive, possible, and open for myself and for all of you. Right. I love that word. I choose to. Yes.
It's nice. It's quite a different energy.
It is. Yeah. It is. And connect with Dave. You've got links to our profile, so you can instant message us, or I guess send a personal message to us if you want more information. And it was so great to be here with all of you today. Thank you so very much.
And a happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
I just want to say, just for the record, for those who may not know, we have the recording of this and every other episode up on my website at yourlifemasterycoach.com. Mm-hmm. So you can certainly find them here on the Learn It Live platform. But you can also come over there and you can leave comments and you can share your perspective. So yourlifemasterycoach.com. Would love to have you there. Meanwhile, all the very best to you all. We'll see you next time on Soul Empowerment.
Yeah. Take care, guys.